Have you ever felt like the world around you is just getting dumber? Like no matter where you look, people are blindly following trends, swallowing misinformation, and celebrating ignorance. You scroll through social media, and everywhere you see people sharing opinions as facts, being outraged over nonsense, or copying each other without even thinking. And you sit there, baffled, frustrated, maybe even angry, asking yourself, am I the only one who sees this? This, my friend, is not just bad luck, it's a phenomenon called mass psychosis. It's the collective state of irrationality where groups of people lose touch with reality, where common sense is replaced by herd mentality, and reason is drowned out by fear, habit, and conformity. Historically, this has happened countless times. People have burned others at the stake because they believed a rumor. Entire nations have been swept up in destructive ideologies simply because everyone else thought it was right. And today, it's happening again, but in subtler ways through social media, viral misinformation, and a constant pressure to follow the crowd. The scary truth is that you don't even have to be a part of it to feel its effects. You don't have to fall for the nonsense yourself, the noise, the chaos, the stupidity. It surrounds you, seeps into your thoughts, and quietly pushes you to conform. And if you're sensitive, aware, or intelligent, it can feel isolating, even terrifying. You might look around and wonder, why does no one else see it? Why is everyone so blind? But here's the question that matters most. If everyone around you is hypnotized by stupidity, how can you stay sane? How do you protect your mind from the chaos without retreating completely from the world? How do you survive in a society that seems to celebrate ignorance while punishing those who think critically? In this series, we're going to explore exactly that. We'll uncover what mass psychosis really is, why it grips people, how it affects your life, and most importantly, how you can escape it. Because you don't have to be dragged down by the crowd. You don't have to let stupidity define your reality. There is a way to stay sharp, aware, and independent, even when everyone else around you is asleep. But first, are you ready to see the truth that most people refuse to acknowledge? Are you ready to break free from the herd? Mass psychosis isn't just a fancy term, it's a real psychological phenomenon. It happens when large groups of people start believing things that are objectively false, irrational, or harmful. And the strangest part? They convince themselves it's perfectly normal. They do it collectively, often without even realizing it. Think about historical events for a moment. The Salem witch trials. Millions of people during the rise of totalitarian regimes, blindly following propaganda, supporting wars they didn't fully understand, or hating others based on lies. In every case, ordinary people just like you and me, lost touch with reality because everyone around them convinced them to. They became prisoners of the herd. And here's the unsettling truth. This isn't just history. Mass psychosis is happening right now, all around us. On social media, people share misinformation as if it were gospel. Trends go viral, not because they're smart or beneficial, but because people blindly copy what they see everyone else doing. Popularity has become proof of truth. Outrage spreads faster than reason. Critical thinking is often mocked as boring or uncool, and the result? Reality itself starts to blur. When surrounded by this, it's easy to feel powerless. You might notice the lies, the ignorance, the shallow thinking, and feel isolated. You might even start doubting yourself, thinking maybe you're the one who doesn't belong, who doesn't understand the world. This is exactly what the herd wants. Conformity. Mass psychosis isn't just about ignorance, it's about controlling perception. But here's the crucial point. Awareness is your first weapon. Understanding that this is a collective phenomenon and not a personal failing changes everything. You realize that the chaos isn't about you. It's about patterns, social influence, and herd behavior. It's about the way human brains are wired to follow, to imitate, and to fear being different. You might ask yourself, how can I stay sane when the world seems to be spiraling into stupidity? The answer isn't hiding from people, pretending it doesn't exist, or isolating yourself completely. It's about learning to see clearly, to think independently, and to navigate the herd without becoming part of it. It's about developing mental immunity to the noise, the fear, the panic, and the manipulation. Some signs of mass psychosis are subtle. It could be the way people argue without facts, the way outrage replaces curiosity, or the way trends become unquestioned rules. Other signs are louder: mass panic, moral hysteria, or public shaming of anyone who dares to question the collective. Belief. In all cases, the herd becomes louder, more convincing, and harder to resist. But here's the empowering truth: you don't have to succumb. Even if everyone around you is hypnotized by stupidity, your mind can remain free. By observing, questioning, and prioritizing reason, you can stay grounded. And once you learn the patterns, you not only protect yourself, you gain clarity that most people around you will never experience. You gain the rare ability to see reality for what it is, not what everyone else insists it must be. So here's the challenge. Notice the herd. Observe without judgment. See the patterns of mass psychosis and ask yourself, am I following or am I leading my own mind? Because this simple question is the first step toward freedom. Imagine walking down a crowded street. Everyone around you seems to be moving in the same rhythm, talking the same way, reacting to the same headlines. You might notice something strange: how easily people follow trends, how quickly opinions shift like the wind. This isn't coincidence. It's mass psychosis in action. The first thing to understand is that mass psychosis is subtle. It rarely starts with extreme acts. It begins with small things: a shared belief that isn't questioned, a repeated story accepted as truth, a trend everyone imitates without thinking. Over time, these small patterns snowball. Before you know it, an entire population is convinced of something that may be entirely false or harmful. Look at the stock market, for instance. Fear and greed often drive people to make irrational decisions. When panic spreads, everyone sells. When hype spreads, everyone buys. One irrational act multiplied by millions becomes a market crash or a bubble. It's not logic, it's herd mentality amplified by mass psychosis. Or consider social media. A single post can spark outrage in hours. Trends can dictate what people believe. And misinformation spreads faster than truth. People often share content without verifying, simply because everyone else is sharing it. This isn't ignorance, it's an unconscious surrender to the collective. The human brain craves validation and conformity, and mass psychosis exploits that need. Even in politics, mass psychosis thrives. Entire populations can support policies or leaders based on fear, emotional manipulation, or selective narratives. Facts are dismissed if they conflict with the collective belief. Rational thinking becomes secondary to belonging to the group. People prioritize acceptance over reality, loyalty over reason, and here's the psychological mechanism behind it. Fear and uncertainty are the most powerful triggers. When people feel insecure, confused, or threatened, their brains look to others for guidance. If the crowd panics, they panic. If the crowd cheers, they cheer. This is not weakness, it's human nature. But in mass psychosis, this natural tendency is exploited. You might be thinking, so how do I avoid falling into this trap? First, you need awareness. Notice the triggers: panic, herd praise, sudden trends, emotional manipulation. Second, question everything. Don't take things at face value just because they are popular or repeated often. Third, cultivate a habit of independent thinking. Reading, observing, analyzing, these are your mental vaccines against collective delusion. Let's take a real-life example. During the tulip mania in the 1600s, People went crazy buying tulip bulbs at astronomical prices. Entire fortunes were gambled on a flower. The act was irrational, yet no one questioned it while the herd was caught in the excitement. If you were an observer, you could see the absurdity. If you were inside the frenzy, it was nearly impossible to think clearly. Another example is moral. Panics periods when society becomes obsessed with a perceived threat, often exaggerated or imagined. People lose rational judgment, relationships fracture, careers are destroyed, and reputations ruined, all because the herd believes the fear is real. You might feel powerless watching it, but the key is observation without attachment. Understanding. The pattern gives you control. Mass psychosis thrives on emotional energy. Fear, anger, outrage, or even excitement feed it. The more intense the emotion, the more contagious it becomes. That's why media, social networks, and even politics often focus on stirring emotion over sharing truth. Emotional triggers bypass rational thought and make the herd move in unison. Here's the takeaway. Recognizing mass psychosis doesn't mean isolating yourself from people or rejecting society. It means becoming aware of the patterns controlling your reactions and thinking independently. It's about asking yourself, am I acting based on reason, or am I following the crowd blindly? The challenge is clear. Can you remain grounded when everyone else is losing touch with reality? Can you see the herd without becoming part of it? Your answer defines not just how you see the world, but how free your mind truly is. The first step to breaking free from mass psychosis is simple, yet surprisingly rare. Awareness. Awareness means seeing the patterns around you without being swept away. It's noticing how the crowd reacts before reacting yourself. It's understanding that popularity does not equal truth, and that fear or outrage can be contagious. Awareness is your mental armor. Once you're aware, the next step is critical thinking. Question everything. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? Is this my own opinion, or am I repeating what everyone else thinks? Independent thinking is like a muscle. It grows stronger the more you use it. Start small. Question headlines, challenge viral opinions, analyze motives behind emotional messages. Every time you pause and examine, you strengthen your resistance to herd mentality. Another powerful tool is selective exposure. In today's world, information is everywhere, and much of it is designed to manipulate. Social media, news feeds, even casual conversations can feed mass psychosis. Protect your mind by choosing what you consume. Follow sources that prioritize facts, logic, and thoughtful analysis. Limit exposure to emotional hype. Remember, you don't have to engage in every debate or trend. Sometimes stepping back is the most courageous move. Next, cultivate emotional self-regulation. Mass psychosis thrives on fear, anger, and excitement. The more emotionally reactive you are, the more likely you are to be swept into the collective frenzy. Techniques like mindfulness, meditation, and journaling can help you observe your emotions without being controlled by them. When fear arises, acknowledge it, but don't act impulsively. When outrage hits, pause and evaluate. Emotional control is not suppression. It's conscious mastery. Building a circle of independent thinkers is also crucial. Surround yourself with people who challenge ideas, encourage questioning, and value reason over conformity. Avoid echo chambers where everyone merely agrees for the sake of comfort. True freedom comes from dialogue with those who push you to think critically, not from blind agreement. Practical action is another layer of defense. When you see irrational behaviors or manipulative trends, you can choose how to respond. Sometimes that response is silence. Sometimes it's fact-based discussion. And sometimes it's direct action, like educating others or creating content that promotes awareness. The key is intentionality. Don't react out of panic or social pressure. React with purpose. History is full of examples where individuals broke free from collective delusions, and changed the world. Galileo challenged the majority's belief that the earth was flat. Rosa Parks refused to obey an unjust social expectation. Martin Luther King Jr. saw through the collective ignorance and inspired millions. These weren't people who followed the herd. They observed, questioned, and acted deliberately. Your freedom starts with the same courage. Observing without attachment, questioning without fear, and acting with intention. Finally, embrace continuous learning. Knowledge is your vaccine against manipulation. The more you understand psychology, history, logic, and human behavior, the less likely you are to be fooled by the crowd. Learning is not about being better than others. It's about being truly free in thought and action. So ask yourself, am I living my own truth, or am I living someone else's story? This question alone can shift your perspective from passive participant to conscious observer. The herd may move around you, but you don't have to join it. You can remain grounded, rational, and clear-minded. Escaping mass psychosis is not about isolating yourself or becoming cynical. It's about mastering your mind, controlling your reactions, and reclaiming your freedom in a world that constantly pushes conformity. It's a daily practice, a conscious choice, and the foundation of true independence. Remember, the herd moves together, but the observer moves freely. The choice is yours. Will you follow blindly, or will you see clearly and act intentionally? Now you understand the basic steps: awareness, critical thinking, selective exposure, and emotional self-regulation. But knowledge alone isn't enough. To truly escape mass psychosis, you need advanced strategies, methods that fortify your mind against subtle manipulation, societal pressure, and the contagious nature of collective delusion. The first advanced strategy is mental reframing. The world often bombards you with fear, outrage, and negativity. Instead of absorbing these emotions, reframe them. Ask, what lesson can I take from this? How can I respond in a way that preserves my clarity? Mental reframing turns chaos into insight. It shifts you from being a passive victim of circumstance to an active interpreter of reality. When others panic, you remain calm. When others judge blindly, you observe thoughtfully. Next, set clear personal boundaries. Boundaries aren't just physical, they're mental and emotional. Decide what influences you allow, which conversations you enter, and how much time you spend consuming reactive content. The herd thrives on overexposure. By limiting your mental intake, you protect your focus, energy, and rational thinking. Ask yourself constantly, is this input serving my mind or enslaving it? Another vital approach is pattern recognition. Mass psychosis rarely appears randomly. It follows predictable social patterns. Look for signs: extreme polarization, emotional manipulation, repetition of slogans or buzzwords, social shaming, and exaggerated crises. Recognizing these patterns allows you to predict and avoid the mental traps before they take hold. The more familiar you become with these cycles, the more immune you are to panic and conformity. Mindful questioning takes critical thinking a step further. Don't just ask why, ask who benefits and what is being hidden. Every piece of mass-manipulated information serves someone's agenda. By identifying the hidden incentives, you cut through the emotional fog and regain control. Remember, information without context is dangerous. Context transforms noise into knowledge. One of the most powerful strategies is deliberate solitude. Mass psychosis feeds on collective energy. Moments of intentional isolation, be it a quiet morning walk, journaling, or meditation, allow your mind to reset. In these spaces, you can reflect on your beliefs, separate them from external pressure, and cultivate a sense of personal truth. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's liberation. Building a feedback loop of conscious learning is crucial. Surround yourself with mentors, books, and resources that challenge your thinking and broaden your perspective. History, psychology, philosophy, and logic are not just academic, they are shields against manipulation. Consume them daily. Challenge your assumptions. Take notes. Discuss insights with trusted thinkers. This is how you evolve from reactive to proactive. Next, develop mental resilience through deliberate discomfort. Expose yourself to perspectives that contradict your beliefs. Face minor social risks, and practice detachment from immediate validation. Mass psychosis exploits fear of judgment and discomfort. By willingly stepping into these small discomforts, you train your mind to resist the herd instinct. Finally, embrace ethical action and personal integrity. Awareness without action is empty. Mass psychosis spreads when people silently accept falsehoods, choose integrity over convenience, speak truth when necessary, act decisively when your values are threatened. Your moral clarity becomes a compass that guides you through societal chaos. Ask yourself, right now, am I living by my own principles or simply following the crowd? Every choice, every reaction, every moment of awareness matters. The herd may roar, but you can remain calm, observant, and purposeful. Escaping mass psychosis isn't a one-time act, it's a daily commitment. Each conscious decision strengthens your mind. Each moment of reflection fortifies your independence. And each deliberate action breaks the chains of collective irrationality. The question isn't whether the world will descend into chaos, it's whether you'll allow your mind to be swept along or rise above it. Will you react blindly, or will you navigate with clarity, courage, and conviction? Mass psychosis is not just a temporary wave of irrationality. It leaves deep, long-term effects on individuals, communities, and even entire nations. Left unchecked, it reshapes perception, erodes trust, and implants invisible chains of fear and conformity. To escape it fully, you must understand its lingering power and master strategies to remain free, independent, and vigilant over time. The first long-term effect is cognitive erosion. Constant exposure to false narratives, social manipulation, and herd-driven thinking dulls your ability to reason critically. You stop questioning. You start repeating. Simple truths become clouded, and complex realities are oversimplified. Over months and years, people under mass psychosis lose their sense of perspective, substituting critical thought with emotional reaction. Another consequence is emotional depletion. Living amid constant outrage, hysteria, or irrational fear wears down your mental resilience. Anxiety, frustration, and helplessness accumulate silently, leaving you emotionally fragile. Emotional depletion makes you vulnerable to further manipulation, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of dependency on herd thinking. The third effect is social fragmentation. Mass psychosis divides communities, creating us versus them mentalities, fostering distrust and destroying empathy. People isolate themselves within echo chambers, reinforcing collective delusions instead of challenging them. Even those who are intelligent or well-informed often find themselves pulled into arguments, conflict, or emotional distress. To counter these long-term effects, daily mental discipline is essential. Consistency is your strongest ally. Build rituals that fortify your mind. Dedicated reading of critical perspectives, regular meditation, journaling insights, and questioning every assumption you encounter. These habits are like invisible armor. They protect your cognition and emotional stability from subtle societal manipulations. Historical awareness is another powerful tool. Mass psychosis is not new. It has occurred throughout history, from political hysteria to economic bubbles, religious fervor, and mass movements of fear or violence. Study these patterns. Ask yourself, how did intelligent societies fall into collective madness, and what lessons can I apply today? Recognizing patterns in the past equips you to resist them in the present. Equally vital is cultivating strategic social networks. Surround yourself with thinkers, mentors, and peers who value truth over convenience and reflection over emotion. Not everyone can escape the herd, but the right community accelerates your freedom. Together, you reinforce clarity, debate ideas constructively, and create a feedback loop of mental resilience. Long-term mastery also requires controlled exposure to influence. Limit constant news cycles, social media hysteria, and emotionally charged debates. Not avoidance, but intentional consumption, where you choose inputs that educate, elevate, and empower rather than deplete or manipulate. Your mind is a garden. Allow only nourishing ideas to take root. Self-accountability and reflection become your compass. Track your reactions, recognize moments when you unconsciously align with the herd, and course correct. Ask, am I responding from clarity or from unconscious influence? This continuous awareness ensures you don't slip back into automatic conformity. Finally, embrace purposeful action in alignment with values. Knowledge without practice is wasted energy. Apply your insights to your life, work, and relationships. Stand up for principles, make decisions from reason and ethics, and act with courage even when others follow chaos. The more consistently you live with integrity, the less susceptible you are to the invisible grip of collective irrationality. Long-term freedom is a daily commitment. It is maintained not by avoiding the world, but by mastering your perception, your reactions, and your associations. Ask yourself right now, am I shaping my life, or am I being shaped by mass delusion? Every choice, every habit, every thought builds your shield or weakens it. The herd may rage endlessly, but you can remain a calm observer, a thoughtful actor, and a free mind. The ultimate question is simple: will you let centuries of collective blindness define your life, or will you rise above, permanently anchored in clarity, courage, and conscious freedom? You've seen how mass psychosis infiltrates minds, erodes reasoning, and manipulates emotions. You've understood its long-term effects and the strategies to protect yourself. Now it's time to embrace the final step: mastery over your life, your mind, and your freedom. This is where theory becomes action, and knowledge becomes power. The first critical shift is radical self-awareness. Ask yourself constantly, am I thinking, feeling, and acting because I choose to, or because I've been influenced unconsciously? Radical self-awareness turns you from a passive observer into an active participant in your own life. It creates a lens through which every interaction, every piece of media, and every opinion is evaluated with clarity. This is your first line of defense. Next is responsibility over reaction. In a world gripped by herd mentality, people react, emotionally lashing out, panicking, or blindly following trends. But you have the power to pause, reflect, and respond. Each conscious decision to act from clarity, rather than impulse, builds resilience. It trains your mind to stay calm amidst chaos, to discern fact from noise, and to operate from principles instead of fear. Purposeful knowledge application is equally vital. Information is useless unless it changes behavior. If you understand manipulation, mass hysteria, or herd psychology, use it not to isolate yourself, but to navigate the world effectively. Make decisions that reflect reason, ethics, and long-term vision. Practice discernment in personal relationships, in work, in investments, and in social discourse. Every thoughtful choice strengthens your freedom. Another essential shift is embracing discomfort as a teacher. Freedom isn't passive. It often requires going against the crowd. You will face criticism, resistance, and isolation at times. This is a sign of growth, not failure. Ask yourself, am I conforming for comfort, or am I standing for truth? Every time you choose courage over comfort, you reinforce your independence and mental clarity. Mindset of detachment also protects you. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means refusing to be emotionally hijacked by collective hysteria. Observe trends, opinions, and conflicts without letting them dictate your internal state. Detachment creates perspective. It allows you to engage with the world intelligently, without being swept away by emotional tides. Community and mentorship amplify freedom. Surround yourself with individuals who question, challenge, and inspire you. Engage in meaningful discussions. Share ideas without fear of judgment. The collective wisdom of trusted peers provides both guidance and accountability, ensuring you don't regress into herd conformity. Finally, internalize the ultimate question. Am I building a life of conscious freedom or a life dictated by unconscious influence? Let this question guide your daily decisions, your goals, and your habits. Each choice aligned with conscious freedom compounds over time, transforming small victories into lasting liberation. The beauty of mastering this mindset is that it's self-reinforcing. Clarity leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to empowerment. Empowerment attracts like-minded allies. And together, this forms a life shielded from manipulation, hysteria, and collective ignorance. You are not powerless. The chaos around you is temporary, but your conscious freedom is permanent. If you choose to cultivate it daily, step away from mindless conformity. Stand tall in clarity. Question relentlessly. Act courageously. Build habits that honor truth. And let your life become proof that a free mind can thrive even in the midst of collective madness. Ask yourself, one final time, am I ready to live beyond the herd, to see the world clearly, and to shape my life with conscious intention? The answer determines everything: your peace, your power, and your legacy.